MultimediaJay Radio Style Theater presents Don't Insult the 222 Bot. Wow, cool, a robot. 222. Is that really all you can say is 222? 222. Wow, what a stupid robot.
MultimediaJay Radio Style.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am still not 100%. Like many of these colds, I have one symptom that refuses to go away, even though everything else is long gone. And once again, it is a hacking cough. So I am going to sound a little bit rough, and I am late to the party on this whole GameStop's Circle of Life thing. But with what's gone down at the 9 to 5 in the last couple of days and what I've been, thinking about and whatnot in response to all of this, I think at this point, if I don't chime in on this, I am a certified idiot who should have said something and didn't. So to avoid that, I'm here today to talk about GameStop's Circle of Life and a few other things that are in play here as well, here on MultimediaJay Radio Style for Sunday, February 5th, 2017. Now, for those of you who live under rocks, how's the view nowadays? The GameStop Circle of Life is a corporate arbitrary quota system that basically assigns a score for people, stores, etc. based on how much of sales are pre-orders, reward card subscriptions, used game sales, and trade-ins. Sounds pretty straightforward, except it's not really a percentage system, it's an all-or-nothing system. Basically, if you make your quota, you get 25%. So 25, 50, 75, 100. So again, arbitrary complexity that doesn't really need to exist, versus just saying, hey, you made your goal here, here, and here, but you didn't make your goal here. What's the problem? What can we do about that? I mean, the more I read about this whole thing, the more it just stinks of the very worst that the business world and bureaucracy in general has to offer. But let's look at some of these things that these people are getting yardsticked to death over. Pre-orders, reward cards, used game sales, and trade-ins. Now, this is value-added bread and butter stuff that a video game store would want to have happening because you're going to all the trouble to maintain an inventory of used games that you don't want sitting around. There are more opportunities to make money off of this other stuff than there is simply selling someone a new copy of a game and calling it a day. And basically, yeah, this is all stuff that the store should want to do anyways. But instead of the stores just doing it, some bureaucrats who need to carve out a job for themselves decided to pencil push a threatening, intimidating program into existence where you are in trouble if you miss these goals. Now, when a business decides to have a formal bureaucratic program for something that should be happening anyways, number one, they have a bureaucracy problem, and number two, that sort of move is going to come with some consequences. For one thing, if you feel the need to create a program for something that you should have anyways, you probably don't have enough of that something. And the program is going to be very, very prone to dooming you from ever having enough of that something. One of the reasons is that in the worst case scenarios, people may finger point to the program instead of just doing the darn thing they should be doing in the first place. And the last thing that will happen as a result of these types of bureaucratic power plays is that there will be unintended consequences, and that is what has landed GameStop in the news because of this program. Various current and former employees who are speaking under condition of anonymity because there's probably official GameStop policies against anything that could constitute speaking for the company have come forward and talked to Kotaku about some of these programs. And the unintended consequence that has them all over the news is that store staff may mislead customers about whether or not something is in stock to try and sell a pre-owned version of something in order to make their quota. Now, can anybody tell me right now who's listening to this what the problem is with this quota system? The problem is that it is threatening people's jobs over results and not focusing at all on practices, behavior, or even just demographics in general. What if you have a store in an area where people don't want to buy used games? Every business has to answer the demographics question. Who do you want to attract? Who do you want to repulse? And you can't ignore it, because if you don't answer it explicitly, you'll answer it implicitly through your actions. But there is something a little more insidious going on here, and there's something more fundamental that is causing these sorts. If GameStop is a dying company, this is why. Because what you have here is you have this quota system, and you have people's jobs getting threatened over that quota system, and you can be set up to fail simply by the demographics of who's walking through the door of that store. So you may have people that are not interested in the membership card. You may have people who just want to buy the darn video game that they want to buy. They may browse the store a little, but for the most part, they already know what they want when they get there, and nothing is going to talk them out of it. So now what? You're in trouble because you didn't try to upsell them just because they'd already made up their mind before they came here, before they came to the store? Let me tell you something. There is something at work here that is a lot more fundamental than anything that any kind of bureaucratic program like this could ever, flesh out or put into an SOP somewhere. There are two things that drive a business, one or the other, trust or fear. 3 guesses as to what this thing is. But if you are consistent, you cannot threaten success out of people. If you are consistently hanging an axe over people's heads, don't be surprised when they get nervous and make mistakes. Let me tell you something. There is not one consistently successful, mature adult professional out there who goes home from work at the end of the day, throws their feet up on the couch and says, "Yippee, skippy, I didn't lose my job today because I met XYZ metric goals that nobody outside of my company will have a clue about if I try to talk to them about it, including my spouse. Woohoo, I'm going to go back tomorrow and do it again." Nobody says things like that. When you slam people with imperatives, the most you get out of them is grudging compliance. You cannot threaten success out of people, at least sustained success, because people would much rather work for folks who actually let them, shine, contribute to the success, instead of, "You will do this or else. Got it? Good. Your livelihood depends on it." Now, come on. I mean, even the AVGN movie made fun of GameStop. I mean, who hasn't made fun of GameStop sometime in the last 15 years? And you would think that the uniquely gifted geniuses in charge of that business would take a step back and they'd be like, why do we keep getting lampooned like this? Because I wish I could say that this sort of nonsense was an isolated incident. But I've come to expect crap like this from GameStop. Some of the worst experiences that I've ever had buying or selling video games. Now, the thing they say when they answer, "Welcome to GameStop, the best place to buy, trade, sell, use video games," blah, 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 blah. I don't know. So, let me tell you something. The last time I bought a video game from GameStop was World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor. We're talking years since I've bought anything from their stores, and there's a very, very good reason for that. There are far better alternatives that don't treat their employees like crap like this. I mean, look at what's going on here. So, there could be something going on that is completely beyond the control of the store manager or the people working the sales floor, and everybody can get in trouble for it simply because consumers are being consumers. So the response is, "Oh yeah, second guess the customers. Tell them they want the rewards card or the magazine subscriptions or the trade-in, blah, 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 blah." Yeah, well, this is stuff that the store should be doing anyways. But the problem is, instead of letting the store just plain do it, and if they're not making their budget, then that's an issue in and of itself. We're going to have this completely arbitrary program that's going to yardstick everybody to death. Yardsticking is where businesses go wrong in a century like ours. Once upon a time, in a more industrial economy where it really was about how many units you could produce per hour and get on the trucks and roll out the door and things like that, yardsticking made a lot more sense. But in this day and age, especially with sales stuff like this, where you have to contend with, what if people absolutely cannot be talked into buying a pre-owned game or doing a trade-in or subscribing to a magazine or signing up for the rewards card? What if you have somebody that already knows what they want, they're just going to buy it and be on their merry way? What do you do about that? What you don't do is hang an axe over your employees' heads for not trying to mess with customers, because I'll tell you what, I'm one of those problem consumers. And the reason why I'm such a problem consumer is because I already know that I'm going to get none of that crap if I buy a video game anywhere else. If I go to GameStop, I get all this crap that the employees are required to nag me about. But if I go online, oh, look, the game, add to cart, checkout, wait a couple of days, poof, it's here. Or go on Steam, download it, leave the thing going overnight if necessary. Poof, there's the game. Nobody's nagging me to do any of this arbitrary retail stuff. And thank goodness, hopefully nobody's getting their job threatened because I just bought what I wanted. Everything GameStop does, somebody else does better, whether a small business e-tailer for used games or things like that, or Amazon or Newegg even has a gaming section nowadays. But that's the thing. What isn't going on at these other businesses, though, is these arbitrary add-on programs that make going there an absolute miserable experience. And not just miserable because you got a sales clerk who's nagging you, miserable because these shenanigans are rather well known at this point. So you know that the person doing the nagging is probably getting dragged into a meeting with a manager or an HR or something like that when they don't meet their quotas. And if they don't meet their quotas because you just bought what you wanted to buy in the first place, then what are they supposed to do about that? You want to talk unintended consequences. Let's talk about how I actually feel guilty shopping at GameStop because I go in, get what I want, and leave, and I disappoint the living daylights out of the store staff who is no closer to earning their quotas on these various arbitrary things than they were when I walked in the door, simply because I did what I was going to do in the first place. Lest we forget, GameStop also has had screwball practices in the past as well. I remember the days when you would pay a new game price and then watch the store person take a CD, drop it in a case like, there you go. And then of course, my worst example of that though was when I went and bought Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii. This was the worst GameStop service I've ever received. Not only did this person sell me a game new by just popping a disc into a holder and then, charging me the full price for it. But I went home and found out the disc already had scratches, so obviously not new. Also, there was no manual, and not only that, the box was wrong. This clueless GameStop associate let me walk out of the store with the display box. This is for display only. It wasn't the actual retail box with a UPC or anything for Mario Galaxy. I made sure to take the thing back the next day and speak to a manager who hooked me up with a shrink-wrapped copy that was already sitting in a drawer. However, for problem customers like me, I had to wonder thereafter, do they have a shrink wrap machine for shrink wrapping stuff for people that insist on it just to shut them up? This is how I know that this is not an isolated incident and that this is GameStop simply being GameStop, and it's yet another reason for me not to shop there. Because one of two, like I said earlier, one of two things drives a workplace: trust and fear-based policies that routinely threaten people's jobs and hang axes over people's heads results in grudging compliance at best, but what this also means is that it's a dead giveaway that there is zero trust in that organization, and when I have to second guess whether or not I should shop there because do they have a shrink wrap machine, that's the lack of trust now bleeding outside of the internal operations to their relations with the customers that they're so desperately trying to hold on to. That's what we have here, a lack of trust. Just like with yardsticking, if you feel the need to yardstick someone, you send a message to them that you don't trust them. I don't trust you to do the right thing for this business. Even though I went to all the trouble to hire you and put you on my team, I don't think you're going to do what's best for the team. So now I'm going to yardstick you to death and constantly threaten your job until you either leave on your own or I have reason to get rid of you and replace you with someone else. Yeah, real nice attitude to have when you allegedly value your associates and want them to have nice, happy careers and be promoted from within and blah, 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 blah. Well, the whole thing with the shrink wrap machine, let me tell you, is basically a lack of trust within the organization now bleeding out to the interactions with the customers, like I said earlier. Oh, and by the way, one more thing about the last time I was ever in a GameStop store. The last game that I picked up from a GameStop was World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor on release day in 2014. So, but here's the thing. I wound up in that GameStop store because nobody else had it. They were my last choice to buy that game. That is where a toxic corporate culture like this gets you. Now, it's not as if I'm reading exclusively Kotaku articles and things like that about, oh, it's so horrible that the Circle of Life program's happening at GameStop. I've also tried to read some pro-GameStop articles, including folks towing the company line that, oh, all SOPs are subject to improvement. We're always looking to improve our processes to give people the best customer service, blah, 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 blah. Why on earth am I doing that voice? I don't know. But anyways, the thing here, too, is that some of the pro GameStop responses that I've read about this whole circle of life thing are like, well, you could end up with a bad district manager. You could have a bad store manager. You could just have some bad associates working for you that leave the place. They're all disgruntled and they go crying on the internet about their bad work experience when they just did a lousy job. But there's something else going on here, too. I mean, we've seen with GameStop these weird things going on over the years, like the whole shrink wrap, pop a disc, and sell it for new shenanigans and things along those lines. We've seen these kinds of things over the years with them. Now, when we have a situation where somebody towing the company line is saying to the media, well, it's probably just a few bad people on our team, what they're doing is something else that toxic companies do. Taking something that's wrong with their corporate culture or their workplace culture, basically something collective, and pinning it on individuals. That is a disgusting form of finger pointing. Anytime you have a program like this, anytime you have some kind of bureaucratic program like Circle of Life, you gotta consider the possibility of there being unintended consequences. Store staff misleading customers about whether something is in stock is an unintended consequence. And it's why this sort of nonsense should not exist in the first place. This is the kind of stuff that somebody in a cube somewhere wrote up and is like, hey, this sounds like a good idea. This will encourage synergy or blah, 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 blah. Completely forgetting the ultimate issue here is that you can't play I'm better than you games with the people that work for you. Because, okay, somebody at corporate wanted to look all hot shot like that and came up with something like this or something along those lines. But I got news for you. Those folks doing the legwork in the field, they're responsible for the sales that drive your budget. This is something that I am sick and tired of seeing, is all these people with people working underneath them who think that they're better than them just because they're their boss. I got news for you. No matter how low of an opinion you have of the people who work for you, unless you're ready to do all of their work yourself, they are the reason why you're able to do well at your job. But too many people forget that. They think, I'm a manager, I'm the boss now, woohoo! And there ends the story. No, you are not. And the more humble and on the team managers act, the better they will do, because that's what a trust-based environment is all about, as opposed to endless fear, and having to spend all that time threatening people's jobs on such a regular basis because of some arbitrary pencil pusher thing that where, yeah, okay, your number was this, it's supposed to be this, but you don't answer the question of why. And this is all stuff that Liz Ryan's been talking about for the last several months and years, by the way. Also worth noting, in a situation where a store misses their goals, or a person misses their goals, and we don't even bother asking why. Just, slap them with discipline, tell them to either shape up or ship out. It's always interesting how root cause analysis is such an immutable, indisputable standard in corporate America for every single facet of a business, except how you treat your people. When it's time to talk about how you treat your people, nope, progressive discipline, penalty volcano, slap them with warnings, slap them with reprimands, slap them with infractions that treat our supposed trusted, valued associate team members like they're guilty until proven innocent. Oh yeah, let's just completely forget about why people are doing a certain something or another and just hammer them, just go running for hammers every single time. Like I said, you can't threaten success out of people. GameStop has too many eggs in all the wrong baskets. With what's going on with console gaming, which is where unfortunately their focus is going to be, and what's going on with digital versus physical copies, and what's going on with the used game market, and as well as, the industry in general and their hostility towards it, GameStop is a company that this so-called circle of life would better be described as a circle of death. It will be finger pointing right up until the end. It may take all the way to chapter 11 before GameStop realizes that they can't keep doing what it is that they're doing. And even if it is too little too late when they try and make changes, kind of like what happened with some of the things going on with Sears and Kmart right now, at least we can't say that the general public didn't try to warn them about this. Now, to put my money where my mouth is, let me go over those things on the circle of life thing again and explicitly name better ways of doing things than going to GameStop. Pre-orders. Video game pre-ordering is a questionable practice these days, and I consider it the role of suckers who blindly trust companies to not screw them on day one. I don't pre-order games. GameStop has lost me there. Reward cards. I can buy video games at competitive prices at lots of places besides GameStop without getting endlessly nagged to sign up for some reward card something or another that just adds arbitrary bureaucracy to something I was already doing anyways. And, oh, maybe your points will add up enough for you to get some kind of discount on blah, 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 blah. So, no, I'm not interested in a rewards card. GameStop has lost me there, too. Used game sales and game trade-ins. These two I'm going to clump together because they're basically two sides of the same coin. It's basically used stuff coming in, used stuff going out. And here's the thing. There are mom and pops that can't compete otherwise around my neck of the woods and elsewhere that are able to keep their doors open because they're better than GameStop. It's really interesting just how much better, small business game shops can do. Even resellers, those people that get maligned so much with, high video game prices, blah, blah, blah. Even the people that do that stuff, it's just, they can still do better than GameStop. They won't mention GameStop and they say, we're better than those other guys. But a lot of times when you hear a mom and pop game shop talk about those other guys, they're probably trying to make a reference to GameStop without getting sued. So, and then, of course, I don't even have to talk game stores either. If I don't mind waiting for a game, small business e-tailers online like Lukey Games, JJ Games, eStarland, all these sites out there that specialize in selling used video games in decent condition at competitive prices. All of these are far superior choices to going down to GameStop and getting nagged. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to place a pre-order on this game when you never pre-order games? Blah, 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 blah. So on everything that this so-called circle of life threatens people's jobs over, I can find a far better place, or just ignore the practice entirely. I can find a far better experience than GameStop if I'm not ignoring the practice entirely. Yeah, that makes sense. Add all of this up, plus quite literally a year's worth of shenanigans that I've associated with them, going all the way back to, pop a disc in a case and sell it for new, da-da-da. Add all of this up, and that's why I have GameStop as the very last place I would ever purchase a video game from. It's just the way things are. I just forget it. Just forget it. It's over. Now, multiply that by however many other people out there have the same views that I do, and, of course, this is Collins's doom loop. A business is on its way out, and while they're going down, they are going at each other's throats, pointing fingers. Nobody wants to take responsibility for anything until finally it's all over. We've seen this before in the world of business, and I'm sure we will see this with GameStop. I just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for them. It is Collins's doom loop. As the business slowly dies, people will just point fingers more and more until it's all over. We'll see more of this garbage, and folks like myself will have less and less of a reason to ever go near those stores. Then the turnover nonsense will begin as people quit or get fired. They will find themselves unable to attract decent talent, which will compound this problem even more. I don't see a future for GameStop. I see a future for what GameStop does, maybe on a smaller, less strangled by corporate scale, but the entity that we know as GameStop, I just don't see this working out for them in the long run. It's hard to believe that once upon a time I entertained the possibility of being a store manager for them. Now I'm glad I didn't. It's kind of similar to an experience that I had with Radio Shack a long time ago. I wanted to be a store manager for them at one point, but I noticed that when I visited Radio Shack, it was an annoying experience with, hey, what's your address? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to do this? You want to do that? Da, da, da. Similar stuff to GameStop. And we saw what happened to Radio Shack. I think GameStop will have that happen as well. That will leave a vacuum in the industry where some more deserving organization can pick up where they left off. Although they might be smaller, they might be a little smaller and things like that. But post-liquidation, perhaps things will be better as a company that actually gets it a bit more and doesn't turn into this mess that GameStop has turned into, picks up where they left off. To the people working at GameStop, I wish you the best of luck in finding a job that actually respects you and actually values talent, but you're not going to find it with GameStop. Get over your desire to work with video games because you like video games and try and take your experience to something else that you're passionate about trying to sell or out of retail entirely. I mean, I don't call them brick and mortar dinosaurs for nothing. And to the geniuses that think that policies like this are ever a good idea, congratulations on being the latest reason why they're not. And congratulations on being the latest delusional overlords who think that they can threaten people into being successful even as the same-store sales continue to drop and your budgets continue to shrink because, I don't know, maybe you should actually value the people that are bringing in the sales. You'd think something like that would be common sense, but not in today's day and age. Not in a business climate that has an absolutely insulting onboarding process via vintage 1999 style applications, insulting rounds of interviews and personality tests, and things that are sure to strangle off candidates with talent and passion and expertise in favor of what, I wonder? Because I see some of the people who have jobs nowadays, and they get jobs just like that, and I wonder what kind of sick and twisted world these recruiters who bring people on board at these companies live in. It's almost like we want to lose across the board in America. And you wonder why folks like Trump go around saying, "We need to make America great again." Well, what if the various players that have made America not so great have made America into the very thing that they've desired all along through their actions, if not their words? This is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for listening. And thanks for stopping by.